Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Really means a lot to me. Look, I've done videos on like a screening visit deconstructed. I've done videos of the informed consent process deconstructed. This one is an actual, and I really wish I can show you guys, but if you're really that curious, you can just Google informed consent form clinical trial and you'll find templates, right? But I'm looking in Creo, shout out to Creo, they're one of our sponsors, an actual ICF, so that's an acronym for informed consent form, of a real study, real patient that we're on right now. And I'm just gonna go through the informed consent document in detail so you guys can understand what it entails. Well, there's a lot of misconception about what an informed consent actually is. There's a lot of hype around it, a lot of tech vendors. Like, I'm just going to go through this particular study is a 35-page document. So I'm just going to go through and explain like what it says, what it means, try to skip through the stuff that's not interesting and give some commentary on some of the most important stuff. So the most important thing, again, we cover this in the process of consent. Follow your SOP, your standard operating procedure. If your SOP says subjects must initial and date the bottom of every page on the informed consent form, then you have to do it. If your SOP does not say that, then you do not have to do it. We recently revised our own SOPs so that we do not have to do that. But in this case, this was right before we revised it. Subject did initial and date the bottom of every page. So the first part of the informed consent form, like on the very top, it says study participant information and consent form and authorization to use and disclose protected health information. So it's like a HIPAA waiver there as well. Then it says the sponsor. It says the study title, protocol number, who's the PI, the telephone number, both the daytime one and the 24-hour one, and then our address. Now, the first actual section says introduction, and this form is for use in a research study that may involve study participants who may or may not have the capacity to consent to take part in a study. Accordingly, when the study participant cannot legally consent to take part, pronouns you and your should be read as referring to the study participant rather than the person legally authorized representative who is signing this form for the study participant. So the first paragraph is like legal jargon about what's the difference between, like, what does you and your mean? Most of the time it means the actual study participant. Other times it means legally authorized representative on behalf of the study participants. And it actually says should be read as referring to the study participant. Now, the second paragraph says you are being asked to voluntarily be in a medical research study of a study drug known as, and then we get into the study drug. It gets into the sponsor and its representatives. In this study, the sponsor is paying the study doctor and or the study site for their work in the study. The purpose of this form is to help decide if you want to be in this study. Please read the form carefully. It may contain words that you do not understand. Please ask the study doctor or nurse to explain any words or information that you not clearly understand. Now, these are meant to be written at, I believe it's a 7th or 8th grade level, so that like medical jargon is avoided, very in the weeds, like medical words are avoided for the most part, but it's still important when you're a site to be able to explain this to your study participants and be able to answer them questions. Now, one of the things I hate is like reading word for word, and I'm not going to do this in this video or else it will never be over, but reading word for word like the informed consent form. They can do it, but what you should do is give them an overview of each section and then have them take as much time as they need. Again, this is all in the process of consent video I did process of consent explained. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to basically break down an informed consent form. Then it goes into more about a description of this trial will be available on clinicaltrials.gov as required by law. This website will not include information that can identify you. At most, the website will include a summary of the results. Then there's a section about confidentiality of study information. The information in this informed consent is intended to help you determine whether participating in the study is right for you. You may wish to discuss this information with others for the purposes of helping you decide whether to participate in the study or as needed for medical treatment. You are asked to treat this information as confidential and to inform any others with whom you share this information that it is confidential. During the course of this study, you and or a family member or caregiver of yours may learn or have access to proprietary information of the sponsor, including drug product information. Proprietary information should be maintained as confidential. So this is more legal stuff. The sponsor telling the study participant, hey, this is confidential. Please ask your study doctor for more specifics if you have a question about anything. Then this is a very important section. Why is this study being done? So it gets into 2 bullet points here. The main reason for you to take part in this study is not to treat you for your condition, but to help in answering the following research questions. So they very clearly stated this is not treatment, right? But it's answering research questions, whether this study drug can help people with this condition achieve this outcome. And I can't get into the specifics because it's confidential. That's the first bullet point. And then the second bullet point is whether this study drug can improve this particular biomarker. That's it. Now, this study is being done to see how safe the investigational drug is and how well it would work to help people with your condition. They don't actually say your condition, they specify it, but I can't break confidentiality. Investigational means that the study drug being tested has not been approved for routine clinical use or for the use described in this study by the FDA. However, the FDA is allowing the use of this drug for research. The next section says how many people will take part in this study, and then it gives the answer. And then the next section says what will happen during the study. Now it gets into you will be asked to sign this consent form, give us your health history, us being the study site. The study staff will review your medical history and test results to see if you qualify. Tell the study staff if you take any over-the-counter or prescription drugs or vitamins or herbs. The study staff will discuss what is required for you to be part of the study. You can take part in the study if, and then it gives them an abbreviated inclusion-exclusion criteria. I see here 1, 2, 3 inclusion criteria. Again, in the actual study, there's like 12 and inclusion criteria, and there's like 40 something exclusion criteria. In the informed consent, it's 3 main bullet points for the inclusion, and then it's like 7 exclusion criteria. Then it says some of the bigger procedures, like within 90 days of visit 1, you will go do a PDFF, which is a liver scan. And that's not actually in this study. I'm just throwing it in there to maintain confidentiality of this study. But there's different exams that are done outside of the research clinic that are in most studies. They throw those in there, like the big stuff. You'll be screened to see if you qualify. The screening period will last about 6 weeks. During the treatment period, you will be randomly divided into 3 groups. You'll receive either study drug or placebo. And then there's a chance that you will get the study drug is 3 out of 4, and that the placebo is 1 out of 4. And then they break down like the differences in the doses for the people that got the study drug cohorts, right? The different low, medium, and high dose. This study drug is given as a subcutaneous injection. You will start taking a lower dose and then take higher doses for approximately the first 12 weeks. And it just basically explains like the schematics. Then it shows a diagram of the study in which it has the screening window. Then it has the baseline, and then it has the visits, which ones are in office, which ones are by phone, and then the early term treatment period. So 86 weeks total. It says primary outcome. It explains these things relatively simply. I mean, the way I'm looking at this, and I'm an experienced researcher, like I've been doing this since 2005. I still have to like pause and look at it a little bit. So I can't imagine someone who is brand new to research. Like they will definitely need, and this is the part where we actually do the consenting with people. We would break it down at this point. Like all the stuff I read already can be summarized in like 30 seconds. This part I would spend like 3 minutes on maybe. I don't like to actually read the consent form when I'm doing it. I like to highlight what is important. I always encourage the patients to read it and take it home with their family, have their doctor review it, and then be there to answer questions. But there's certain places where, and every study is different, where you got to like explain more, and then other parts that you can kind of gloss over a little bit because it's just jargon. Like no study participant needs to be reminded that this is confidential and they shouldn't share this information with other people. And again, what I like to tell my patients is the informed consent is not a contract. Like let's say you're renting an apartment, or let's say you're signing a mortgage, right? It's not a contract. It is a disclosure. So everything is one-sided. It's all in your favor as the study participant. It's not a two-sided contract where we're going to hold you accountable and you hold us accountable. It's not like that. And that usually, because these things are intimidating, and we get into this in the process of consent video. Then it gets into some rules about the participants, like you'll be trained on how to use the devices, which are part of the study. So these are like the phone, the e-devices, whatever. You'll only use the study drug as instructed by the staff. Return any unused drug containers at every visit. It is important that you are truthful with the study staff, about your health history. You should not take part in the study if you do not meet all the requirements. If you choose to be in the study, your part is expected to be 86 weeks, including screening and follow-up. Please review the table below. Then it actually has the same schedule of assessments that you will see in the protocol. I mean, literally every single assessment. So this takes up 6, 7, 8... 9 pages just for the charts. So that's a lot of pages, but it basically breaks down every visit and every assessment. Then it has another section that says additional information. So we're on page, what page are we on? 15 of 35. Additional information. This study, like most others, requires study monitors, and then it explains what those are. These are people working on the behalf of the study sponsor to visit the study center to review the data, including your medical records. This process is called source data verification. An important part of this data verification is confirming the parts of the study that relate to protecting participant safety and well-being are performed at the study center. These monitors may not be able to access the study center in person to perform this important tasks. So these monitors may not be able to access the study center in person. If access is restricted and the monitor cannot review your study records at the site, this review would occur outside the study center in a manner that protects the confidentiality of your data. The reviews could be conducted in different ways. This may be done by preparing and uploading copies of your records for remote review. On the other hand, the review may be conducted by sharing your records by other means, for example, video conferencing. So what I tell patients during this part is, hey, we use a system called Creo. We upload your records, we redact them. Monitors can access them, but nobody knows your name or anything outside of the informed consent, which usually the informed consents have the patient name. So the informed consents are never redacted, but they want the medical records to be redacted. And I've been told that even the medical records, if you're using Creo or Viva, don't have to be redacted because whoever's accessing to them have restricted access. Like those are just people who have already signed CDAs themselves. So they're like an extension of the sponsor or an extension of the study staff. You need people like Darshan Kulkarni who can explain this probably for an hour. Additional information. This study, like most others, requires study monitors to visit the study center. Then it talks about what the monitor cannot review your study records. So this is the part I just talked about. Whether your medical files are reviewed at the study center or remotely, your records will be kept secure during this process. Then it gets into some of the specific parts of the study, like fasting. You will have to fast for some visits. You will have to get a lot of blood draws, and then it tells you like which visits. You should not consume grapefruit juice during the study, and that's grapefruit juice extends the half-life of most drugs, like not just study drugs, every drug. They would tell you not to take grapefruit juice for no matter what study you're in. I've seen this in almost every single study, but they don't tell you not to avoid grapefruit juice in the real world where everyone's on some medication. So they put that in there. Telehealth visits, and then it gets into a whole section on telehealth visits are conducted between you and the study staff, either by telephone or video call feature. We only use telephone, so there's no video platform. Creo does have a built-in phone where you just click a button, calls the patients. It's not a video feature either. Exceptional circumstances, it talks about things like COVID. Your study staff will reach out to you and inform you when this will occur, like whether you want to have like a mobile healthcare person visiting you instead of you coming to the site. And then it has a box, yes, I want to participate in mobile healthcare visits should there be another exceptional circumstance, like another lockdown or something. Or you can check no, but then you probably can't be in the study, and it has a bunch of checklists there. Are samples being collected? So yes, your samples will not be identified by your name. The analysis of your samples may help with the creation of new lab tests, new medicines, or other items that may be financially valuable to the sponsor. So this happened because of Henrietta Lacks, who her tissues were used, this was in the 60s, I believe, without her consent, and they found new discoveries in oncology treatment because of her tissue samples. And I think the sponsors ended up owing the family royalties, but only decades later. So here they have a section now for that. The sponsor has no plans to give you either now or in the future any payment, royalty, or any other financial benefit from any product, procedure. So it basically keeps patients from coming back decades later and saying, hey, I was in that study. You guys made $1 billion off of my biosamples. This is now in there. Samples for study qualification. So it goes through the lab processes, laws, regulations, international lab standards, samples for measuring study drug levels, samples for genetic research. The DNA RNA sample may be stored for up to 7 years after the study is finished. It talks about what the DNA and RNA and how they're using it. Because remember, a lot of these things, they actually have an expiration here, 7 years. So they can't use, in this particular study, after 7 years. But whatever technology comes in that time period, they can use it, and they can go back and say, well, we have all these biomarkers now. We have all these genetic samples. Let's go see what we can find out more. What will happen when I'm finished with the study? The study doctor or one of the staff members may try to reach you after you have stopped treatment. They will want to talk to you to see how you're doing. They will also want to ask about any other treatment you received. And then now it gets into all the side effects. What side effects or risks can I expect from being in the study? There are safety information from 12 previous studies, and participants who have taken this drug have been reviewed. This included 486 healthy study participants, 993 study participants with this indication and 971 with these other risk factors. And then it gives you a table of the most common, the very common, so 10 or more out of 100 study participants had these side effects in 1, 2, 3, 4, which are nausea, watery, loose, frequent stools, throwing up, and then 1 to less than 10 out of 100 had these ones, which are considered common. And then the following are side effects that have been reported in people who have taken drugs that are similar to the study drug. Not all of the side effects below have been reported for this study drug. And then it gets into a bunch of side effects, right? And this goes on for only one page. Then it gets into the very standard risk for pregnancy, breastfeeding, and persons of childbearing potential. There is no data on this study drug in pregnant participants, and the potential effects used during pregnancy or breastfeeding are not known. Women of childbearing age can participate as long as they use acceptable birth control methods. And then non-clinical safety data has been studied in and given to animals, and they give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the important side effects in animals. Procedure risks, blood tests. For most people, needle punctures for blood draws do not cause any bad problems. However, sometimes they may cause bleeding, bruising, discomfort, infection, and or pain. You may also feel dizzy. Questionnaires. Some people may find that doing the questionnaires is upsetting or embarrassing. ECG. There is no pain during an ECG. However, removing the pads may cause some irritation to your skin. Then they get into a few of the other ones. Reproductive risks. If you are female, you should not become pregnant while in the study or breastfeed. The best way to not become pregnant is not to have vaginal sex. If you are sexually active, you must use birth control that will reduce your chances of getting pregnant throughout the study. And for 30 days after receiving the last study dose, you should talk to your study doctor about the types of birth control that are best. If you become pregnant, you will be discontinued and you will be asked to allow the study staff to collect information on the pregnancy. No male birth control is needed unless it is a study requirement by the local government. Other risks, in addition to the side effects already described, this may have other risks. During the study, you will continue to take your medication. Ask your doctor about any risks that may be associated with your current medication, because a lot of these studies are add-ons, or people have other, medication, other conditions that they're taking they're taking medication for other conditions. So they don't know all the contraindications, right? And that's what they're basically saying. Are there benefits to participating in the study? You may or may not receive any benefits, like 2 paragraphs about this. Again, more legal jargon. What other choices do I have if I do not participate in the study? It gives specific standard of care for this condition. And there's about 4 bullet points. So it discusses alternative treatments here. What happens if I want to stop the study? Your taking part is entirely voluntary. Your participation may be stopped by the study doctor or the sponsor as well for any reason without your consent. What are the costs of participating in this study? Study drug and procedures will be provided at no cost to you. In addition, you will be paid for your a fixed amount per study visit. And then it outlines at every visit the fixed amount. So this table goes on for 2 pages because it's a long study. It talks about transportation. We always try to just take care of transportation for our patients. Parking, that's not an issue with us. Meal reimbursements. I've offered to get meals for everyone. Nobody ever wants it. They just want their visit done, so we stopped doing that. For some of the longer visits, like 6 to 8 hours, most people do want a meal. It tells them what they get per meal in addition, but we usually just pay for it ourselves. And that's 3 more pages. What happens if I'm injured because I'm in the study? It says, please seek medical help. The study sponsor has no plan to pay for injuries caused by the negligence of the doctor. However, you retain the right to seek compensation for injury even if you sign this form, accept medical care, or accept payment for medical expenses, and you retain the right to seek compensation for injury related to the negligence of those involved in research. To pay these medical expenses, the sponsor will need to know some information about you, like your name, date of birth. So this talks about what happens if like the site itself was negligent, how the sponsor can, or how the patient can get compensated. Whom to contact if you experience any medical problems or research-related injury. It gives you the please contact the study doctor at the number listed, or it gives you the investigator, the IRB, the Institutional Review Board, and it gives you their number here and their email and their address. And this is the study subject reference number for this particular study. Will my information be kept private? Like 4 pages about HIPAA. So this is the study statement of authorization. And then study participant information and consent signature page. And that is it. So as you can see, a lot of legal jargon. I never did a video on this. Hopefully it helps you out. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, share. If you are interested in the actual process of consent, I did a similar video on my page. Hit the playlist, fundamentals, and check it out. Bye-bye. Hey, if you guys like that kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Stay tuned for more videos.